Miami Eldercare Channel is brought to you by the estate planning and elder law firm of David F. Anderson, PA. Today's guest is Kathy Franzone, Aging Life Care Planner with Atlas Aging Life Care Management.
Today, we're very lucky to have Kathy Franzone with us. She has what I consider to be one of those areas of services that are so much in need, and I have found many clients that kind of don't even know to think to look for her. Could you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company?
Okay. My name is Kathy Franzone. I'm from Atlas Aging Life Care Management. Our company's been around since 2007, and I have worked for the company since 2009. The owner of the company is Doris Haas, and we service the Northern Dade area, Broward, and Palm Beach area.
Wonderful. I also see on your credentials you're a registered nurse.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, and I see other credentials. What are those? Could you explain what your other credentials are?
Yeah. I have a CMC, which is for Certified Care Manager, and a Qualified Dementia Specialist. The Certified Care Manager is a certification that you receive by working with another Certified Care Manager for a number of years to learn what the what you need to deal with the different problems that you find in the aging community. And the Qualified Dementia Specialist is a special course I did that helped me to learn all aspects of dementia, not just what you might see just in meeting someone, but from a medical perspective as well as social, and how to teach caregivers to deal with the dementia client.
That's so interesting in so many ways. I went to the last elder law seminar at Stetson University, and one of the seminars was given by a lady that does the education for University of South Florida Medical School. So it was on dementia. Well, we all have heard the name dementia and Alzheimer's. I know enough that they're not one and the same. And then she starts for an hour and a half detailing all of the various types of dementia. There's different onsets. Some dementia, she said, could stop. There's medication that can cause dementia. So what I did, I came out of there, wow, I knew so little. There's so much more that I need to learn. And then what she really impressed me with was, I think they call it the Bird Alzheimer's Center up there. They're doing all of this Alzheimer's and dementia research. They're uncovering all the time new aspects of treatment and diagnosis. And I've even heard in the literature that they're considering, say, maybe in 5 or 10 years, there might be an Alzheimer's vaccine. So that's, there's a lot going on. It used to be, I think people say, well, what's wrong with him or her? Oh, it's just old age. They get senile, right?
Yeah.
And then, but it's so much more complicated than that. And I think you help to find the right treatment, the right environment, the right caregivers.
Correct.
Right. You help, I guess, work with the doctors, the diagnosis, the prognosis, the care plan.
Yes.
Okay, they're just it's a fascinating area. And of course, with the graying of the population, you're obviously seeing more and more dementia, right?
Oh yeah, and
right.
In fact, as modern medicine helps people to live longer, we're seeing more and more clients with dementia because, like you said, it used to be just considered, people were getting senile.
They put them in the old age home, the old folks home, and they just sort of warehouse people, and that's where you went to die. And and thank goodness we've progressed so much further than that. Another thing, as an elder law attorney, it's one thing to focus on the patient and with Alzheimer's, dementia, or Parkinson's, or whatever the case may be. But then always around them, there's the family and the caregivers. That right? Do you deal with that? How does it impact the family? Do you advise them as to what they need to do, how they need to survive?
Oh yeah. It's like a lot of our clients, their family is not local; they live out of town. So the way we do is we go in there, we assess the client and see what the needs are.
Right.
We do a comprehensive care plan. We try from basically their mental status, medical status, to their home environment, and then we advise the family on what they need, the client needs,
Right.
in order to be able to function at their maximum.
Right.
We also will go out there and we will assist them in getting caregivers to come into the home, because a lot of times, as people do have dementia, whether it be Alzheimer or another form, it becomes unsafe for them to live alone.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So we assist them in finding the caregiver that can work with that has experience with the dementia
Right.
client, and that will assist them to be as content and happy as possible and well cared for and safe. I mean, one of our priorities is keeping our clients safe, because as we see, as they get age, it's like development in reverse, and they become, it's sometimes not safe for them to be alone.
You remind me of something that happened recently. I had a client, and he had just turned 91, and he'd been a client for a long time, and a dear friend. I'm sure you agree with me. The elders, I find them just so fascinating. So many life experiences, and I laughed with him, and he told jokes, and he talked about riding bicycles in downtown Miami on dirt roads. But as he turned 91, I noticed that he had some memory problems, right? And I had even expressed to him, have you talked to your family? Have you, well, yes, I don't want to be a burden. I know, but you need to express to them, and just they wouldn't not listen. So then I got the call. He was on blood thinners because that was the only thing. He had some circulatory problems. Living alone, the coroner said he passed out from fainting, fell and hit his head, and he died of a cerebral, incident. And to me, could have been prevented. It was just so sad. If they just had someone like you that could come in there, like, no, you don't need those sharp glass objects, right? You need to have a safer environment. But I couldn't reach the family. So we needed someone like you, but sometimes the families, they're too stubborn. I don't know, maybe sometimes they don't want to spend the money. I don't know. Or they just don't want to do anything different.
Right. And, what we find a lot of times is, and unfortunately, because, it's like if they're a little, what do they say, an ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure.
Absolutely.
Well, a lot of times, as these people age, they're very independent, and they don't want someone coming in there and helping them.
That was a big part. He was stubborn with me. He kept telling, I don't need that. And I said, listen, but can't you just take a little bit of advice? He was too proud.
Right. And, what you say was very important, if you could have just reached out to the family. Because a lot of times families also, it's their parents or their, aunts and uncles, or their people that, they've given respect all their lives, so they're trying to respect their wishes.
It's a very complicated dynamic. So many variables. Do you go around their privacy? Do you quote unquote disrespect them? And even as an attorney, do I violate attorney-client privilege? Sometimes I have to nuance them in. Listen, can we bring in a geriatric care specialist? Sometimes I won't even use that word. I'll say, listen, I know a really good person. I'd like for you to meet her, and I want you to, would you just talk with her, right? Non-threatening, and that way it doesn't impact their pride.
Right, and that's, I know that avenue's been used in the fact sometimes we've been invited into the home as a new friend. And then just to try to focus on what we can do to help them, but not and try to stress the fact we're trying to maintain their independence. We're not trying to take it away, because that is one of our goals as care managers, is we're trying to maintain their independence as much as possible.
Right.
And we don't want to just go in there and send them to some facility, or we want to with the family as help. We want to work together as a team. I like to use the approach as a team. We're a team, and the one person on the team that I need for the client to know is they're on the team. It's not someone else working around them, that they're part of this team, that we're all working together to make their life and the quality of their life as good as it can be.
That's a key concept, and again, unfortunately, as a function of practicing elder law, too often I see that, quote, team, that family, split up, fighting in court. And I'm sure you deal with those situations. That makes it even that much more difficult. I keep trying to tell whoever will listen, let's get back to what counts. That loved one, your elder, your senior, or whoever, it doesn't even matter what age it is. If you have a 20-year-old paraplegic, that person needs care. And the last thing that person needs is infighting. And to see all that emotional turmoil, they need to have focused on maintaining their dignity, be respected, and their independence. But when the family's fighting, it's not an easy thing.
Right. And one thing I think that families can do is to be proactive, because the more proactive they are, and the sooner that they get assistance for their loved one, the less of that fighting that goes on. Because a lot of people, the more stressful the situation is, the more the crisis, because the more in crisis the client is, the more expensive it is, and the more expensive it is, the more upsetting it is to families, and there is more conflict, because they see, we're spending all this money. But that's what, if they can just be proactive from the beginning and get some different things in place early on, then for instance, it's not as much for the older client, because then it gets too late. But people need to look into long-term care insurance.
Absolutely.
They need to look into seeing an elder care attorney to make sure all the directives in place, so that if there comes a time when their loved one can't make decision, those directives are in place, so that the client has already named the person that they want.
Durable power of attorney.
Exactly.
Very, very important.
Healthcare surrogates.
Yes.
From what we see, it's like, if again, there could be a difference of opinion between loved ones. If mom or dad goes in the hospital and they're asking for decisions, what do we do? Well, if the client has already named the person that they need to take care of this, then that should eliminate some of that.
In elder law, we say there's basically two types of situations. The first is strategic preventive planning, like you said.
Right.
Many more options, much less costly. You have the luxury of time. The other is crisis intervention. Mom has been diagnosed with moderate to severe Alzheimer's, or broken hip, or Parkinson's. Now what are we going to do? At that point, then your options are much less. So what you just said is the sooner you have some plans in place, the better off everybody is, the whole family.
Right.
That's the big message to get out there, and that's where your company comes in.
Right, right, because we are proactive. I mean, we go into a situation, if you look at our clients compared to like the average client, the same age, with the same issues, their hospitalizations less, they're healthier, they see the doctors more routinely, because we do medication management, that we make sure that they are taking the medication, make sure that they're not taking too many, too little, and because we're nurses, we have the education to be able to do that.
So what types of services do you offer your clients?
Well, I like to say we can do whatever the family needs us to do to get the job done.
Right.
But some of the specifics are, like I said, medication management. We do work with the families as far as getting aides in the house. We're our clients' advocates. We go to the doctors with the client, and we also talk to any of the healthcare professionals on their, basically on their healthcare team. We're constantly giving out referrals because we don't do everything. We can't do everything. Sure. But we do have a lot of resources to send people in the right directions. I mean, if when we do our initial assessment, if we see they don't have a power of attorney or a healthcare surrogate, we send them to an eldercare attorney. That's part of what our role is, to find these resources for them to, basically take care of their client, take care of their loved one. Some of the other things we do is, if, say, they come to us and they see it's time for mom or dad to go into an assisted living or a nursing home or some type of facility outside of their own home, we can assist in finding them, the different resources to go and it just, sometimes we have families that they're out of town and it's just the client. Maybe they live in their own home and they only have an aide there. Well, there's, when you're running a household, there's a lot to do that.
Finances,
right,
and maintenance and bill paying, and
right.
Could be pets.
Oh,
right.
That, yeah. That's funny because
right?
I do have a client that has a dog, and it's like sometimes it's it's kind of the joke. It's like I'm the pets care manager too. But you know what? What's really important is that what is important to that client is what's important, because if this little dog is very, very important to the client, and
that's family for these people.
Right. And her health, if something's wrong with the dog, then she's stressed, and then it's going to affect her. Right. But she has company. It's her, part of socialization.
Absolutely.
Part of, like you said, she loves that little dog.
Stress reduction, anxiety reduction.
So basically, we can do all of that. I mean, of course, our focus is on the medical and the mental, because that's where the most need is. We do a lot of medication management. We always go to the doctors with our clients. And as far as dementia, we do have a lot of clients with dementia because the need is so great. That's where the families say, well, we can't handle this long distance, or even sometimes they're in town, they don't know the resources to go to, and they say, what can we do to make all our lives better?
Right. When you say medicine management, are you finding more and more over prescription, cross medicines, interactions, contraindications?
Well, yeah, I would say there are a lot of people I run across that are on a number of medications. Sometimes, the way, it's a really good thing that we have so many specialists out there. You go to your primary, but then you go to a cardiologist, a neurologist, an ophthalmologist, a gastroenterologist. Well, unless the client is telling the primary care doctor what all the medication they're on, they may be getting prescriptions from all these different doctors, and So it's not the doctor's fault that it's just that, and it's not the client's fault either, except that they don't know the importance of letting the doctor.
About a year ago, we had an example of this. My wife is a physical therapist. So she went with the director of nursing. They went to a patient's house. The lady had surgery, heart surgery, and the doctor had given a couple of prescriptions, and one of them was a very strong painkiller, narcotic. So the lady said, I need you to go get this filled. So my wife went in with the nurse and looked in the medicine cabinet, and it was filled with all of these bottles of medicine. A lot of them were narcotics. I mean, potent, powerful meds and tranquilizers and sleeping aids. So they said, listen, we just can't do that. You have too much of this now. So she got very angry, threw them out. She called the doctor and, talked pretty badly about them. So they called me, and I said, listen, ethically, if you know that you're doing the right thing for that patient, then you need to do that. You're going to have to live with your own conscience. So the doctor was upset, and they called in another home health agency. Well, that home health agency, they got another doctor. The doctor wrote more pain meds. They filled it, and the woman overdosed and died. So that doctor called up my wife and says, I'm so sorry. I was so wrong. I wasn't there. You saved me from either, medical malpractice or from grieving about, okay. So that on-site, being with the patient, that intervention, it literally means life or death in many cases. And to have someone like you, a registered nurse, and you go in there, you don't know what these people are taking. This woman was so self-medicating, so overly medicated, she ended up killing herself. It's sad. But she kept shopping and shopping till she got what she wanted. So, see, that's another great reason to have. You're sort of like I see you as like the coach. You get the team around you. Somebody's directing the team, and you get the family involved. And that for the most part, the families have no clue, say, about the over medication.
Right. Well, it's like most people trust that the doctor is not going to, give them too much medicine. But like I said before, if they're going to numerous doctors, it's not the doctor's. The doctor has no knowledge of this. It's like, and sometimes, maybe it sounds like in that case the client had something in mind. They knew what they were after. Maybe not. Maybe they just were in so much pain they were looking for. Yeah,
there was something, but but the problem is when you have ethical caregivers, the nurses, the physical therapists, they have to draw the line and say, I cannot do this in good conscience. I cannot get you, right? You have to stand there and say, no, this is not right. This is not in your best interest.
Right.
And it's not easy.
No, we did have a client, way back when part of our role was to go to the doctors and make sure that they weren't given too many pain medications. That was literally, you
mentioned something earlier, that you're a dementia care specialist.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly?
I've taken a special course, and then I got certified, as well as I keep up the certification. It's like every couple of years you make sure you take the classes, and I have more education and more experience with the different dementia clients.
Do you see some hope there on the horizon for dementia?
Well, like you said earlier, there's a lot of research being done. I think that as they see how much of a problem and it could be because with the baby boomers coming into the thing, and there's such a large population that's going to be hitting their 70s, 80s, and 90s at the same time, and one of the risk factors for getting dementia is getting older. So they see that there's going to be so many people diagnosed. More. I mean, there's a lot now, but there's probably going to be more and more as time goes on. So, and there becomes a concern, of course. Who's going to take care of these people?
That was my next question. Who is going to take care of them?
Because they need, like I had mentioned, it's like development in reverse. So they become more and more, their needs become more and more, they become more childlike in nature,
right.
In the fact that someone needs to parent them. And, it's difficult because they can't live alone. They can't make financial decisions for themselves. They can't even make they basically, if they go into the doctors and the doctor is telling them, well, you need a surgery, well, they may not be the one to make that decision. They really need someone else to be able to make that decision for them. So,
and another big part of that is not only who's going to provide the care, the other part is who's going to pay for that.
Yes.
That's another, and they only, like the politicians just sort of talk about it once in a while, but nobody that I'm aware of is really doing anything about it. I saw, and of course, I get emails and blogs as an elder law attorney, so I saw the thread going through, and there's beginning discussion of should Medicare include a component for long-term care. Well, yes, it should, right? I mean, the need is huge, but again, who's going to pay for it? I mean, who would not be in favor of that? But that's the problem, is how do we provide for all of these benefits? Now, and you said earlier, everybody, as we sit here today, should buy some version of long-term care insurance. And most people, they don't even know that exists.
Right. Well, I mean, you talk to people and they think, well, I've got Medicare. That's going to take care of that.
That's I hear that. Or they say, Medicare is going to take care of, or Medicare, it's the same thing as Medicaid, right?
Right.
No, it's not. And that's another thing is, like let's say both husband and wife and the families up in New York, and let's say they both get dementia. Well, then they can't live there, so they're going to have to go in a facility, and then who's going to pay for that? Well, unless they're pretty well off or they have long-term care insurance, pretty much going to be Medicaid, isn't it?
Yes, and then you've run into the concerns with Medicaid is there's a waiting list for Medicaid.
Waiting list, all the waiver programs.
Right. I mean, it's just, you can't just call up and get Medicaid. It's a process. There's a waiting list, and there's a application process.
They ask me, well, okay, so we're going to do this Medicaid application. It takes like what, in 3 days? Listen, let's begin. We're dealing with a bureaucracy, okay? And now, could you want an honest answer? They're set up to deny you. That's why they're there. Now, because they don't have all of the money to pay for all of the benefits that have been promised, right? That's the dirty little secret. So, but people like you and I, that's what we do. We wrestle with these issues.
Yes, and that's true. It is wrestling with it because you see the need is so great, but yet there's just not enough money out there to cover all.
So and then this ties in your literature. I saw something that really stood out to me. Does each one of your clients get a unique care plan?
Yes. What we do is when we start a client, we go in there and we do a comprehensive care plan. We deal with every aspect basically of the client's life. We, medical, which includes, reviewing all their medications. We do some screenings, like a mini mental, it's called, where we screen them, to see how their cognitive, where they're at. And we also do a depression screening, and we do fall screening and nutrition screening. So we cover all parts of their, what's going on with them. We also deal with their home. We go to the different, we look at their house. We look at their bathrooms. We look at is there throw rugs on the floor? Is there, because falling is such a big thing. We look at what can we do to make to give them advice, or whoever's taking care of them, the advice to make the house as safe as possible. Let's see, we look over their finances. This is something, we will go, depending on what we're doing. Sometimes this is not done because it's not necessary. If the family's saying we want your services and, we'll take care of it or whatever, we don't go into that. But sometimes if we're looking like someone that may need Medicaid, we need to know what the finances are to see
absolutely.
to qualify. Or if they want to go into an assisted living, we need to know what money they have available because we need to know where to start. Do we start at a facility that might be a little bit less, or do we have the freedom to look at all the facilities out there? We do go over legal, the legal, as far as, do they have an eldercare attorney? Do they have all their, power of attorney, healthcare surrogate? Do they have a living will? Social, because the needs of our clients are so different. We have a client that, we got in there at a good time. We were more proactive. We didn't get in there when we were in the midst of all these crises. So, we're able to focus a little bit more on the social aspect of keeping her in her environment and as happy as can be.
You're talking about being proactive. That's so important. I have a good friend of mine through Rotary, and he owns a funeral home. His family's been here for, I think this is the 4th generation. So there was a situation, needed a burial plot. So the family said, well, we're not going to worry about that until the time comes. So I called him, and he said, listen, the time is now, because once somebody passes away, it's like you're paying list price. So I explained this to the family. They made the arrangements. They saved 50%. Now, look, to me, money is money, and that money, better that the family save 50% for whatever. But that was being proactive. Why pay such an inflated price? But they just never thought about this. I never thought about it, except for my friend, who, and I could call him up and ask him these questions, that part of life is death and dealing with that, right?
Right.
So.
Yeah, in fact, that also is on our care plan as far as funeral arrangements and all that, because like you said, we in our business, it's like we have lost a lot of clients, and sometimes we're the troops on the ground when it happens, and we need to know this information so we can start the process for the family until they can get into town.
And most families, the last thing they need is to have all of that money just burned up on next to nothing. It is. Maybe the money can go to some grandchildren. Maybe can help them get into college. Things like that. That's what the elderly wants. They don't want to see that money just completely wasted.
Right.
So that's also what we bring to the table. We can do that proactive type planning so that it's when it all happens just by disaster. Usually your options are just very limited. What are you going to do? You say, well, now the person's deceased, we've got to buy a burial plot or do whatever their wishes were.
Well, like on the same note, it's like with our company, it's like if we get called in a crisis situation, it's definitely more expensive, because it's like we have this huge list of different things just to get the client under control and
You
stable.
have to stop other things, what you're doing, and now focus on that crisis, that emergency. And, you've got to spend all, you've got to start solving all of these major problems. Yeah, and it just by definition is more expensive.
Yes, and there's just so much more to do. It's like because, and but a lot of times the families don't know what's going on because the client keeps them in the dark, and and it takes a little bit of asking the right questions and when they're there, if they have this inkling that there's something wrong, they're probably inkling is trusting that instinct, because there's probably a lot more that the client's not telling them that is telling them.
As an attorney, I can only represent one person, and if it's the elderly person, then I can't represent the whole family. So therefore, I like to bring in a geriatric care specialist, because you can have a sit down with the whole family, and you can develop this plan. It makes my life better, because you're ultimately trying to do what I want. It is what's in the best interest of the client and the family.
Right.
It just rounds out. It makes my life better. It rounds out the whole plan, and you're usually seen, I would hope, as sort of a neutral party.
Right, and that's that's what our goal is, and I believe that's because the senior, depending on the like, if we have a client that has moderate to severe dementia, they might not know what we're doing. They just see us as someone that comes to visit and they like us. But even the client that isn't, but they also, like, I go back to the team. It's like we're all working as a team together, and
you can bring some sanity sometimes to these family situations.
Right.
I even tell opposing counsel, the ones that I can reach, listen, let's try to do the right thing. The good ones say, yeah, okay, what do you have in mind? Oh, okay, let me run it by my client. Let's try to work this thing out. Those are the good attorneys that I just love to work with them. Unfortunately, I think some attorneys try to stir the pot. I try not to engage in that.
Yeah.
But let's do what's best for everybody, and especially, look, you got that person, 80, 85, dementia. They don't need all that drama. They just need to have care.
Right.
I think they've had enough on their plate.
That's so true.
Or they're in a hospital with a broken hip, or Parkinson's. Parkinson's another thing. I mean, MS, lupus, the list goes on. They don't need that melodrama.
Right.
They're going through pain and whatever else. The depression. Tell the family, listen, just love them. Do the right thing. Right. So I'm so glad you're there. I think what you bring to the table is so amazingly important, and that's why I'm just so happy with this video. We can get out there so people can understand this resource, because so many people don't even know that you're there.
Right.
And I'm telling you, it's very, very special work that you all do.
Well,
it's quite an honor to know you and to work with you. I look forward to talking with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.